session really is to just give people assurances of the quality of life that exists after treatment, but also to talk about your experiences leading up to your treatment. We're just going to do this as a bit of a chat. So, Ian, tell me, when did you first start noticing symptoms of heart valve disease?
You need to go back a long way, Will. 1965, I was originally diagnosed with a heart murmur, which obviously I didn't know a lot about, being sort of 9 or 10 years old at the time. All I knew is that I used to get blackouts, and I sort of, anything sporting wise and that I used to have issues with. But then I went in the army age 16, and I did 24 years in the army, no problems, all the normal sort of fitness stuff in the army, no problems. I went for I came out of the army in 95, and I went for a routine wellman check with the employer at the time. And the GP detected a heart murmur. I thought, well, yeah, I'm not worried about that. I've had it all my life, so I'm not particularly fussed about it. I had no symptoms. And in fact, to be quite honest, when I went for this check, which was July 2014, it was about 2 months before I was due to cycle to Paris for the second time. So I was really active. I was doing, loads of cycling, no real sort of issues in terms of fitness, and no problems, no pain, no breathlessness, nothing. So I went off to, she sent me to Frimley Park Hospital, saw the consultant there, had an echo done and various other things, and a meeting with the consultant, and he said, right, Mr. Berry, he said, you've got mild aortic stenosis. Right, okay, didn't know anything about that. And he said, in 5 years' time, you're going to need a new heart valve. Whoa, hang on a minute, that's not on the agenda. What's that all about? And so anyway, we sort of went through that process, and as time went on, I was been checked more and more through that period of time. I had an angiogram done in February 2015, and having gone through the sort of the process of being checked and diagnosed various different ways, it got to the point where exercise tolerance was becoming very, very low. I'd go out on my bike and I could do probably 5 or 6 miles, and it would be really quite difficult to do. Severe pain in my chest, breathlessness, dizziness, that sort of thing. And it got to a point where, I said, well, I can't do this anymore. Despite the sort of fitness levels that I'd had previously, I was ready for saying, I'm going to get rid of my bike, and I can't do this anymore. And anyway, I was sent down to the Brompton in London, saw the surgeon down there, Mr. Quarto, and I was booked in to have my aortic valve done in June of last year. So I went in on the 18th of June last year, and it was done on the 19th, and then 5 days later I was home.
Absolutely incredible. And what kind of decisions did you make? Because I know you really did research everything about your treatment.
I was sort of really conscious about not becoming Dr. Google. There's loads and loads of information on the internet, but you need to be a bit sort of selective, I guess, about what it is that you read and what it is that you act upon. I became aware of Heart Valve Voice through a couple of forums that were on the internet at the time, to do with valve replacement surgery and that sort of thing. And that's the point at which I sort of spoke to you, I think, at that time. But I think, to be fair, you need to be a bit selective about who you listen to and the information that you take in, because there's lots of things out there that you don't really know before you go in for surgery, which are people's own personal sort of experiences. But having said that, I took a lot of time to talk to people who'd gone through the process and as to their experiences, and their choice of valve, to be quite honest, as to you know, what valve would best suit me, why that would be. And I did loads of research, and I spoke to people at organizations who actually make the valves, as to what would be best for me. People were saying, oh, I had a guy that I cycle with, he had his done a couple of years before me, and he went to the hospital and he had a mechanical valve fitted, and away he goes, basically fit and forget rest of his life, take his blood thinning agents, and that's him done. And I thought, well, I don't want to go down that route, because there's things that you need to consider when you're selecting the type of valve that you think is best for you, in discussion with your surgeon or registrar at that point in time, as to what the future might hold. Now, I took the decision that, based on the fact that there is a likelihood that this might reoccur at some point later in my life, bearing in mind I'm 65 now, I want to be able to be treated in a way that is minimally invasive, if that eventuality should arise. Now, looking at the sort of the possibility of TAVI later down the line, if I'd have gone for a mechanical valve at that point, then it makes TAVI a lot more complex and a lot more difficult to sort of to go with. So, having gone down the route of having a tissue valve, I've got a nice 25mm valve, gives me loads of blood flow and that. And if it comes to the point where I need to have TAVI further down the line, then it makes that procedure a lot easier. They can just stick another valve inside the one that I've got at the moment, and it'll be back on your bike, boy, and away you go.
And what kind of discussions do you remember with your treating clinician, with Cesare, and what also role did your partner play in those kind of decisions?
My wife is obviously, you know, aware of my past life, and, you know, we've been married, oh, blimey, 43 years, I think. No, more than that. But anyway, she'll remind me of that, no doubt, when she hears this. But, but, you know, she was really keen that obviously I get myself sorted out and get back to some sort of level of fitness, and, you know, able to go out walking and, you know, go on holiday and not worry about, you know, walking up hills and things like that, where I'd have to, you know, 5 minutes and I'd have to stop and have a bit of a breather and that. So she was sort of very influential in the way that, you know, we drove this forward. She attended the clinic with Dr. Quarto with me in January 2019. So we both sat there and had a chat with him, so that she could understand fully what it is that I needed to go through in order to get me back to some sort of normality in that. So it was it was key that as a partnership, and in fact as a family, you know, both my girls have grown up, they've got families of their own, but they were sort of very keen to understand what was wrong with Dad, and, you know, what needed to be done to get him sorted out.
Excellent, excellent. So we've got, oh, there's Livy.
Well, just to, before we're going to live, one thing I will say, Will, is that, you know, having had this done, I attended the cardio rehab clinic several periods after having it done. I came out of the hospital 5 days after having my valve replaced. I started on a light exercise program, gentle walking, and then probably after 6 weeks or so, very gentle cycling, indoor cycling. But I also attended the cardio rehab fitness sessions. So that was 8 weeks, twice a week. And it's like being on a saga holiday, you know, but it was really, really good in terms of, you know, getting you into some sort of procedure almost for the level of fitness that you need to be at and that you need to progress from. So that was very useful. And then from there, I sort of started back on my fitness training more intensely from probably September last year, and I've done about 7,000 kilometers on my bike since then. So there or thereabouts.
That's a good sign of what you can achieve after your treatment. So obviously we've got Livy here as well, who's an untreated patient.
Yeah.
So I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about your the detection of your valve disease and the steps towards diagnosis and where you are at the current point in time.
Yeah, sure. So it was only about 5 years ago, so I was 40 something, and I went to the doctors and they did listened into my chest and heard a murmur, and basically from there, come back 2 weeks later, listened again, and it was still there. So I was sent to hospital for the echocardiogram. From there, it all just progressed, and over time, over the years, I've got symptoms. I've got all the classic symptoms, and so my cardiologist now, I have changed where I live, so I've moved completely counties, and my new cardiologist has really taken me on board, and is absolutely fantastic. He's now got to a stage where he believes that I need to be, or I have been now, referred for surgery.
And when do they think that's going to be?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? I think it's all who knows. COVID. Hopefully, it will be within a year. If it's not, that probably wouldn't be a great situation for me. But within a year, I'm hoping to be in, done, and dusted.
Excellent. And what kind of research are you looking into in terms of that decision making?
Yeah.
So what type of treatment and what's been explained to you?
So I am a massive researcher as well, just like Ian. And I also have decided that I would like the tissue valve. I've heard about the mechanical one ticking, and at night time I like to sleep in pure silence. So that would not work for me. I'm also possibly the most clumsiest person on this planet. And so blood thinners and me, it just won't work. So definitely a tissue girl.
I see. And so, Ian, what kind of advice would be given to an untreated patient at the minute? With a key...
What I would say, Will, is that the period of time leading up to having had your valve replacement done is probably the worst time that you're going to go through, because it's the unknown aspect. It's the what's going to happen. Am I going to be okay? Will I get through this? What will it be like when I've had my valve done? Will I be able to get back to normal? So many things that you don't know, and people say, yeah, you'll be all right, you'll be all right. And you have to sort of take that on board sometimes and understand that, yes, you will be all right, because, there is life after having had a valve replaced. And, you quite quickly get back to some form of normality. So, yes, it's a difficult time leading up to it, but don't be afraid of it. When you're in there, a few days in hospital, you're quickly back on your feet again, and you get yourself mobile. If you set your sort of stall out so that you are determined to do something about this, and give yourself some sort of a program to work to, set yourself some goals, then they're like milestones. You achieve those goals. One of the things I said is, within a year of having had my heart done, I'm going to cycle 1,000 kilometers in a month. And I did that in May of this year, which was like 11 months. So these personal milestones are really important. You need to set those, and you need to say, right, at that point, that's where I want to be. And you need to be determined. The plan might change, but the goal is always the same. You're always going to get there, but it just depends sometimes which direction you actually take to get there.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Hopefully, always fingers crossed, the path will be easy, but I'm sure it won't be. There are things that I'm really looking forward to, and things that I'm really not looking forward to. So one of the things, strangely, that I'm looking forward to is the actual surgery, because to me, it's like it's the grand opening. It's going to be fantastic. It's the day of repair and healing, and so that's really, really, like, for me, I'm kind of like excited about that, and I just want to do it and get in there. And then, of course, I know there are going to be some difficult times, which are going to be things like because of COVID, will I be allowed my visitors? And that kind of thinking that because my husband's my absolute rock, and thinking that he might not be able to be there to support me, that's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah, one of the questions we've just had, actually, Livy, I hope you don't mind, is someone's asked you which valve is leaking. Yes,
so I've got a bicuspid aortic valve, and I also have got, just for an added extra, an ascending aortic dilation, which like how I talk about it, I call it an aneurysm, because that's kind of that's what I think it is. Maybe it's a bit like a hernia on a big valvey tube thing. And I think they're going to do both at the same time, because I really don't want to go through the procedure twice. So open me up, do it, done, dusted. So that is what I've got.
And you say we've a couple of questions about the symptoms, if you don't mind sharing. You mentioned that you started to get those classic symptoms. You know, how tough are they at the minute, and which ones are specifically worry you at the minute?
So I think it's tougher on my husband, because he now has to do all the housework. I can't do things like, I can't carry a basket of washing upstairs. That's too much. It's too heavy. There are things other as well that I worry about, because I've got this what I call an aneurysm. I really worry that it might rupture, because I have a disabled daughter who's 8 years old. She's 5 stone, and she doesn't understand danger, and there are times when she does something that's really dangerous, and I need to pick her up quickly to prevent her from doing that. So for instance, she has no road danger awareness. And if she makes a run for it, I have to grab her. And that physical exertion, it can completely wipe me out for the whole day. Things like that. I need to sleep each day. I obviously get breathlessness, tight-chested. I feel dizzy a lot. So I got pretty much all the classic symptoms there.
Well, you're getting lots of good wishes and heart emojis on Facebook here and through Twitter. So I just want to ask you a quick question, both of you, the question about how important you think patient advocacy is, and how important those community groups, because you're on both sides of that treatment divide at the minute. How important is that sense of community with involved patients for you, Livy, who hasn't been treated? And for you, Ian, now that you've been treated, and how you feel as though you can help support that group. So if I started with Livy, how important is those communities, and how important is advocacy and raising awareness?
Yeah, absolutely key. I've got to say that without the support of all of the different charities, Facebook groups, and that kind of thing that I've been with, I really wouldn't have a clue of what even to have started Googling to figure out what kind of valve I want and that kind of thing. So that's been absolutely key. And I think as well, you know, talking to a lot of people and realizing that if you don't have the stethoscope and someone listening to your heart, then you'll never find out. And it could be you put breathlessness again down to being like me, a little bit chubby, not particularly active. And so you just think, oh, you know, it's just age and getting older and that kind of thing. Whereas actually it's not. And that's actually something that's important for me to remember, is that this isn't something that I'm doing to myself. This isn't because I'm not particularly active. This is just because I've got an issue and it can be resolved. And that, to me, that's lovely, because I'm going to be like a new shiny penny, just like Ian is. I want to be Ian.
Well, I don't want shiny penny, more of a wrinkly £10 note probably. But I agree absolutely with what you say there, Livy. It's, you know, spot on what you say. But looking at it from, it's important that you've got this good sort of network around you as well, so that you can talk to people who may well not have been through this process, but are a listening ear. You know, they sort of understand that, you know, you've got a bit of a problem. It's going to get sorted out. And just to bounce things off people is really, really important. Having said that, it's also important to be able to, when you're my side of the fence, to be able to give something back, which is, you know, the reason that I'm here now, talking to you, the reason that I got involved with Heart Valve Voice. I've done a bit of blogging work for you and that for the website. Also, we attended the Houses of Parliament, me and you, Will, and, you know, we went there and we talked about heart valve disease with lots of influential people, and something is now being done about it. You know, the awareness is very, very important. If you're not sure, go and get yourself checked out. Don't think that rigorous activity will automatically lead to breathlessness and pain, because it doesn't. You know, don't associate those things together. If it's hurting you and you're out of breath, there's probably something not right. So go and get yourself checked out.
And we've also taught, you spotted it a few times, a risk, however, though, in those kind of groups of misinformation, and how important it is to make sure you get that general support from the patient community, but you also need to make sure that you get the right kind of advice and guidance from clinicians as
Absolutely.
well.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. And you know, as I said right at the start, it's very important that you take these little pieces of information from everywhere, and then you put them together into a working model that you can then move forward with.
I must say as well, to find a cardiologist that works for you is just life-changing. So my cardiologist, Dr. Guhar, he works at QA, which is Queen Alexandra in Portsmouth, and he is brilliant. He uses language that I understand. He communicates really well. He reassures me really well, and I need a lot of reassurance on a lot of stuff. You know, he's supportive. That at the moment, when I last spoke to him, I actually had 34 questions, and he was all right about it, and that was lovely. So having the right kind of support with the cardiologist that works for you, like I say, Dr. Guhar, love him.
Superb. And we've had again another kind of comment from the community there, from Heidi, saying that she was treated during the height of COVID, and it's okay, it's tough without your family, but the hospitals and the staff are so wonderful that not to worry about it. So I'd share that with you. Have we got any more final questions there, Simon, from patients? Oh, there was a question, what someone's asked on Twitter about the night before surgery, and that's when the healing starts. I just thought, Ian, what was your experiences of that?
Yeah, as I said, I was up at the Brompton, which is probably about sort of 40 minutes from where I live in Sandhurst. So it was relatively local, but it was in London, and I thought, oh, you know, the problems of getting in and out of London for the family, you know, I thought, well, how are we going to deal with that? But then everybody rallied together within the family, and you know, we got transport arranged, cars, that sort of thing. So the night before, we went in. I went in with my wife and my eldest daughter at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Got checked in. It's like going into a hotel. This, you know, check yourself in, got yourself settled, went and had a meal in the evening. The surgeon's team came round in the evening, had a chat with me so that I understood what the procedure was all about, so that I knew what I was going through, signed the paperwork, and then 8 o'clock in the morning, following morning, away we went on the trolley. Job's a good one.
Excellent. Yeah, good advice there. Good advice. I can see that Emma has arrived for our next session, and Karen Booth, and excellent.
Yes, I think it's you know, huge credit to our speakers for sharing. I think there's nothing so powerful as somebody who's been through that role or is in that role as a patient. So thank you very much, Ian and Livy. There's a comment there. Callum shared the message from Twitter. Somebody saying, "I'm totally terrified of the day I'm going to have to have open heart surgery. Hearing Livy describe it as a day of healing gives a new perspective." So thank you, Callum, for dropping that in from Twitter. And you know, audience members saying they've had bicuspid valve replacement and the aorta replacement in January, feeling really good now. Lots of positive stories. So I think sharing, you know, they say sharing is caring, but I think it does wonders. And I know Heart Valve Voices is keen to. That's an aspect of Heart Valve Voices' work, is to help share stories to promote understanding and sort of remove the fear that can come with ignorance or just not knowing what to expect.
Yeah,
Can I interrupt as well really quickly and say, it's okay if you do worry, and that's human. But there are things that you can do to also help you on the way. So for instance, I'm practicing, even though I don't know, it will be within a year, so I don't know the date yet, but I'm already practicing meditation. And also, I don't know, it's like an aromatherapy thing. And I've got this really pretty perfume. And every time I think about nice thoughts, I sniff my perfume in hope that just before I go in for my surgery, I can have a sniff and feel all right. So there are things that you can do to kind of help yourself. Acceptance that it's going to be all right if you do worry, and meditation and that kind of thing can just really help, hopefully.
The thing is just to stay positive about this whole process. You know, it's something that you need to go through, something needs to be done. Think of it in a positive way, and think of, 6 months down the line from when you have it done, that things will start to get back to normal. There is obviously a recovery period, which you have to accept. We have to take things a bit easier, but then you start to get back to some form of normality. And life is very pleasurable after having had an aortic valve replacement.
It'd be lovely. The first 2 weeks afterwards, I'm planning on milking it.
Why not? Well, if he's doing all the cooking and the housework, is that right, Mr.
Yeah.
Gosney? So you've got to milk that. He's not listening, is he? He won't have heard this, will he? He won't have heard any of this. There's a comment from Damien. I think nice segue from what we've just been talking about, saying other than there are some online Facebook texting groups, are there any video conferencing support groups for valve patients and also for emotional well-being? I don't know, Will,
yeah, so we've put on 2 webinars for meditation, and it's something that we're looking at repeating. So that kind of emotional well-being and meditation, we're connected with a lady who's done a number of sessions. So yeah, it's actually on YouTube, I believe, as well. We recorded the session. So what we'll do is we'll promote that on our social media channels and make sure that's accessible. So Damien, yeah, and if you want to get in touch with the charity directly, Damien, we can pick up that conversation, because we've got a couple of patient advocates that are very much into meditation and the emotional well-being.